This week on Painting Lines.
I mean, you gotta favor Sinner in this matchup if all things equal and if he's not ill.
Going into this tournament, he was like 1-5 on tour this year. So he didn't even have close to a positive record. And then he comes into this tournament and has the run of his life.
Ready?
Man, what a week. Welcome back to Painting Lines. Today, we're going to dive into the Cincinnati Masters, which had the potential of a storybook ending, but completely anti-climaxed at the end. We're going to break down this week's biggest headlines, focus on the incredible lucky loser who made a run all the way to the semifinals, talk about the massive $260 million facelift that the tournament did in just 1 year. And then, as always, we've got our signature segments at the end. So you won't want to miss it. Lock in because this one's going to be a good episode. All right, Aidan, I want to start out this week's episode with one of my favorite quotes of the week. It was when Bob Moran, the tournament director, thanked the ball kids at the end of the ceremony or at the trophy ceremony. And he said, "Thank you to all the ball kids. Some of you have been here for 15, 20 years, which would make them older than some of the players." And I was just kind of thinking to myself, because I noticed throughout the tournament, a lot of these ball kids were like looking more like ball people or ball adults. I don't know, however you want to call them, but I just thought it was funny and I wanted to hear your thoughts on like, what do you think about this?
I mean, I feel like it's definitely not normal. And I feel like it kind of goes against the entire idea of a ball kid, right? Because to me, the entire point of having the ball kid is that these like children get the chance to be on the court with like their heroes and their idols. And I feel like you see things about, oh, this kid like was a ball kid and then they grew up and got to play against that person or something like that. Like you get these storybook sort of endings, but when it's adults, it almost becomes like this weird thing where it's no longer about the kids having this experience and it's just like, oh great, I get to do this again. I just feel like it ruins the whole point, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I bet it does make for some damn good ball kids though after doing it for 15 years, I feel like this is one of those situations where you got like the Willy Wonka, you don't really age out of it, just kids forever.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a little strange to do.
Not a fan. All right. Well, what about your thoughts on the tournament overall? What'd you think?
I think the biggest standout of the tournament was just the conditions, right? It feels like the conditions played way more of a role than anybody would have wanted and would ever want from a tournament like this. I mean, Zverev, Shelton, Davidovich, all these guys were really struggling with the conditions. And I feel like people would much rather play or see people actually play tennis than just watch them go out there and just struggle physically.
Yeah, it's really such a bummer, especially because it's such a close tournament to the US Open too. So now you kind of get nervous about the heat at the US Open and some of these players' conditions that they're getting heat exhaustion before, arguably one of the biggest tournaments of the year.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest tournaments of the year, right? I feel like it's
But yeah, arguably biggest slam maybe, but
exactly.
obviously behind Wimbledon.
Yeah, I think I honestly that's where I would put it. I think it's number two.
Hmm.
People like to say the French is big, but I think the U.S. Open because it's the last slam of the year and because of the popularity in New York, it's different. So it's such a big stage that they're building up to, and yeah, the fact that they're dealing with these conditions in the run up to that, exactly, it makes you worried about how these guys are going to be able to perform in New York.
Yeah, and I feel like the theme of Cincinnati was just, the conditions because you saw it in the final too. Like, let's just start off with that. We had a pretty good tournament, everything we could have asked for as far as a Sinner as final. Everyone was hyped up for it. I was luckily working from home on a Monday because when else is the final of a tournament Monday at like 3 p.m. So I
Yeah.
was ready to watch it, and unfortunately, I like had it up on one of my computer screens doing work, and then all of a sudden, I was like, "Mr. Sinha has retired the match." I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what is going on here?" But I
Yeah.
mean,
You're
just
working on an email and then all of a sudden you're
yeah,
like, the match is over. What?
yeah, I know. I just thought it was kind of not funny, but ironic that we had all these retirements during the tournament too. That it's only right that there's a retirement at the end of the final, and Alcaraz wins his first Cincinnati Masters with a retirement.
Yeah, really a bummer. And I know that Sinner said it was an illness, but I feel like it was something he could have played through had it not been so difficult out there.
Yeah, I know. And I feel like, I mean, you got to favor Sinner in this matchup if all things equal and if he's not ill. I mean, what do you think?
I think you generally would, right? If you look at how well he's played on hard court. But then again, if you go back, I think Alcaraz did win their last hard court matchup in Beijing, right? So you got to consider that as well.
Yes, you do have to consider that, but I feel like Sinner has just been on an absolute tear this year. I think he was on a 26 game hard court winning streak, which Federer holds the record at like 50 something. So people are talking about potentially Sinner breaking that, but unfortunately can't do it with the retirement or the loss, I should say.
Yeah. And I mean, I think he didn't even beat Nadal's, which was like 28. So
Oh man, man.
yeah, now you got to start back at zero.
Yeah, but speaking of surfaces, I feel like with Sinner's hardcore dominance, it does beg the question, are we going to see some parallels to the Rafa Roger rivalry where Rafa pretty much dominated on clay and then Roger dominated on hardcore? So do you think it's pretty similar there, or do you think it's going to be more even?
I think that it's tough to say. I want to see first of all, I want to see how the grass comes into play, right? Because Sinner did kind of dominate in this Wimbledon final. On hard court, I agree. I think it looks like Sinner is the better player in general, based on his performance against other players, but not necessarily his performance against Alcaraz. So it's really a kind of a paradox where no one can beat Sinner except for Alcaraz, but then like Alcaraz is definitely beatable on hard court, especially.
Yes, funny about that paradox because you just see Alcaraz, especially in this tournament too, dropping sets like, pretty lackadaisically, and then Sinner coming out super strong. I don't think he dropped a single set all tournament.
Yeah, and he also clobbered a couple of guys. Like I know he beat who was it, FAA, and and
FAA.
he won like 6 games in a row. FAA comes out and wins 2 games to start the second set, and then Sinner wins 6 games in a row again, and it's just over so quickly.
Yeah, that was rough. And I know we talked about that one, and FAA had the 2-0 head to head against Sinner.
Yeah, and I mean
And
FAA really like first up, I think he faced match points last time they played, and so it was a very close match. But this time, it's like that was FAA's prime against pre-prime Sinner. And now it's like FAA not at his prime against prime Sinner, and it's just not even a match. But also, I mean, that match was just kind of sad to watch. It was like FAA just could not hit the ball in, it felt like.
yeah, I know. I mean, like you said, a sub prime FAA against a prime center is just a recipe for disaster. But no, I mean, I think a lot of players didn't play up to their standard in this tournament, and you have to chalk it up to the heat. Like, I feel like we did see a lot of lopsided matches, and FA wasn't the only one who couldn't keep a ball. And like by the time Ben Shelton got to the quarterfinals, I feel like he was just spraying everywhere.
100%. Yeah, I mean, that match with Zverev was not the closest just because it felt as though Shelton was falling apart.
Yeah, I know. It is funny that you could see Zverev beat Shelton so easily, but then have Alcaraz turn around and beat Zverev so easily because of the same reason that he beat Shelton
Yeah.
because of the exhaustion. It's kind of
Yeah,
like
you got the exhaustion, the conditions, and a lot of people were talking about Zverev's diabetes coming into the match and playing a role there, which I assume has to be a massive contributor, especially when you're in those conditions. To me, it's kind of similar to the Sinner illness in the final, right? It's like he probably could have played through it had the conditions not been so bad. With Zverev, if he maybe could have kept playing at a decent level if he wasn't also dealing with this extreme conditions in Cincinnati.
yeah, because I like Zverev's chances against Alcaraz. He has a pretty positive record against him. I'm pretty sure he was up 6-5 at the time, had recently beat him at the ATP finals, also on a hard court. So I wasn't completely ruling out Zverev, but with the conditions, he just didn't stand a chance.
Yeah, yeah, he just was falling apart there. But going back to the final though, I do wonder like with these difficulties, these conditions, would it have been better for Sinner to just not even show up and just withdraw from the match? Because you think about the fans, I get they want to see the match, they paid to see the match, but imagine you take like an hour to drive to the location. You spend 30 minutes parking. You walk in, you get prepared. You spent like 3 hours getting to this match, and then it's only 23 minutes long. It's not even really competitive at all. And then you have to take all this time to leave. Wouldn't it have maybe been better to just have him withdraw and people get their money back? Obviously, it's negative for the tournament. That's not what they want to see. But for the fan experience, I feel like that would have been the better solution.
Yes and no. Like I do see what you're talking about with, saving a bunch of time for everyone and money potentially too for the fans. But at least they got to see the trophy ceremony. Like that was kind of something in and of itself. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Sinner, he maybe didn't want to take the chance and withdraw and risk, maybe being able to be somewhat competitive. Like he went out there probably thinking that, hey, I'm not at 100%, but at least maybe I can catch a break. Maybe Alcaraz isn't at 100% either, but quickly realized that it was not going to work out. I think the best solution here would have been for Sinner to withdraw before the match and they plug in Atman, someone that he had beat in the semifinals. But I'm sure that was just impossible because after you lose, you got to move on to the next tournament. I'm pretty sure Atmani's playing uh, US Open qualifiers. So
Is he playing
what
in the qualifiers right
he's
now?
playing in the qualifiers. Crazy, right?
That sucks because I feel like his ranking should
It
be
should,
up
but
high enough, but I guess because of how it like when the cutoff is
right,
probably.
yeah, it's too soon. But he's
Yeah.
definitely inside the top 100 now.
Yeah, I think he's like, yeah, somewhere in maybe the 60s.
All right, well, that's a good transition into him. I feel like we got to talk about him now. I mean, this guy, he qualified for Cincinnati. He was ranked outside the top 100 when the tournament started. And what a run he had. He took out Fonseca, Fritz, Runa, made it to the semifinals. Not only the semifinals, but his first tour level semifinal, too.
Yeah, I mean, I think going into this tournament, he was like 1-5 on tour this year. So he didn't even have close to a positive record. And then he comes into this tournament and has the run of his life.
Yeah, wait. So he was 1-5. That's insane. Do you know how old he is? Is he a young guy who's like just starting out, or has he been around for a while?
I don't know if he's super young, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was like 23. I'm not exactly sure though, to be honest.
Because that kind of begs the question, is this someone that we should be talking about in the US Open, like potentially other tournaments? Like, was this his big breakout, or was this just a fluke run by some random French dude?
Well, unfortunately, he did end up withdrawing from the US Open qualifiers, I believe, because he said a foot injury, I think, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was just fatigue overall. But in terms of whether this is his breakout, as a relatively young player, you'd hope for that maybe, but I feel like it's too early to call. I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up being something like a Popper run last year where he makes this big explosive run here. He maybe does well in a couple tournaments coming up, but then kind of fades and doesn't end up becoming the next big thing.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen this story over and over again where guy outside the top 100 makes a breakout, big run in a big tournament, kind of gets into that like 50, 60 range and then just settles there for like the rest of their career. Like
Yeah.
we'll see him in big tournaments, we'll see him in slams, but I don't think he's going to be winning any titles anytime soon.
Yeah.
But his
I
game style is awesome. Like he was fun to watch.
100%. But it also felt like his game style was just go for every single shot.
Yeah, it's
And
aggressive.
I don't know if that's going to work every single tournament.
I don't think so either. Plus, I feel like because Cincinnati and the heat and the conditions, he was beating a lot of these top guys. And you kind of have to give it a little bit of a discount because I don't think these guys were 100%.
Yeah, it wasn't optimal conditions for sure.
Hmm. All right, next up, let's hit on the $260 million renovation that Cincinnati underwent. And hats off to this tournament because they did all this in under a year, or exactly a year, I should say.
Yeah.
They added, yeah, they added a ton of new seating, new courts, went from 17 to 31 courts, built a brand new stadium that's sunk into the ground, kind of like a amphitheater, which I think is super cool because that's you see that at the Italian Open, kind of along the lines of like the old Roman history. So interesting to see there. Also, they wanted to create more of like a park atmosphere, get rid of all the asphalt, put a lot of lawn with real grass, artificial turf, put a bunch of new landscaping in. So it just looks really nice.
Yeah. It feels like they wanted to make it similar to maybe Indian Wells or the US Open, where it's a whole area rather than just a bunch of courts.
Yeah, and apparently there's a best tournament of the year, and Indian Wells always wins it every single year. And Cincinnati trying to really like put themselves up there. And I feel like if this venue was in Indian Wells, it would win 100%. But it's just in, Cincinnati, Ohio, which isn't the most glamorous, the most sexy city.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I got rerouted on my flight yesterday to Cleveland, and I was like, didn't know I would ever be in Ohio, but I don't know if this counts.
Yeah, the land, baby.
Yeah.
But in addition to creating a better fan experience, they also created a better player experience too. They added new clubhouses, they improved the player facilities, new locker room, new gym, recovery station, added 10 practice courts. So you never had to wait to practice. And this was just a great thing to see for the players, especially at the end of the season when, you know, long summer of traveling, people are getting tired, people are getting exhausted. The last thing they need is just like a shitty tournament that doesn't care about them.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the opposite of the Miami Open, right? Where they were cutting all the costs. The players were in these trailers. They didn't have any great spots to play and warm up. And it feels much more like an investment rather than a cost cutting measure.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'll never forget that rude outburst where he was just mid-match yelling at the umpire about the conditions. He's like, I gotta be in a trailer with, one towel. The guy's like, don't talk to me. Talk
Yeah.
talk to the tournament director. I could relay these, but like I can't do anything about it. And Rude's like, I know you can't do anything about it, but I'm just frustrated. Like,
Yeah. It's always funny when the umpire's like, dude, you're asking me these things. I'm 100% with you, but I can't do anything about it.
yeah, I know. I know. What a tournament though.
Yeah. But I mean, speaking on that, I do want to talk kind of a little bit about the repercussions of this tournament in terms of where we're at in the year and the rankings and the race to Turin, because obviously we have Alcaraz in the lead of the rankings right now for 2025. And with this, he actually expands his lead, and he looks like he's in a great spot to take back that top ranking by the end of this year because he leads by almost 2,000 points heading into the US Open. So that's a full Grand Slam's worth of points of difference. Meaning, if Alcaraz plays pretty solid for the rest of the year, and even if Sinner plays out of his mind, there's still a good chance that Alcaraz is able to hold on to that for the remainder of the year.
Yeah, if you would have asked me a couple weeks ago if I thought Sinner could overtake Alcaraz, I for sure would have thought so, but now not too likely.
Yeah, because there was an extra, I believe, uh, like 350 points positive for Alcaraz because the finalist in a Masters 1000, I think, gets 650 ranking
Oh.
points.
Mhm.
So that's a big swing, right? It's a 700-point swing if Sinner gets that instead of Alcaraz.
Yeah, I know. Well, do you know about the other contenders in the race to turn? How are they doing?
Well, I mean, one interesting one I think is Shelton. Obviously, after Toronto, he shot up the rankings. He's now the top American in
Ooh.
2025, number 4 in the rankings overall. I mean, the weird ones are like you've still got Djokovic in there on the back of 3 Grand Slam semifinals. You got Draper in there, who honestly hasn't done, it feels like, that much since the beginning of the year. Obviously, he won at Indian Wells, but he's still number 7. And then you got guys like Musetti and Rude who are on the outside looking in. Deminar, who's number 8 right now. And I'm just wondering, could there be a shakeup at the U.S. Open? Could we see some guys that are on the outside looking in? Could we see a Rublev or a Runa or a Hatchanov make a deep run and maybe shoot themselves up into a prime position to make it there?
Yeah, I could see a Hatchinoff dark horse for sure, but I think the U.S. Open will only do damage to Musetti and Rude. I don't think they'll have a big result. I
Yeah,
think.
they're definitely clay guys that may just
Mhm.
slide further.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think they're gonna trend the other way, but hey, I wouldn't mind seeing a Rublev. I feel like we've seen crazier things, right? Like Rublev had a pretty good tournament in Cincinnati, had some big wins, so I wouldn't put it past him. I think it was a good confidence booster because I personally think he exceeded his expectations at Cincinnati.
Yeah, I
Making a
mean, I think
quarterfinal.
you definitely can't be upset with a loss to Alcaraz right now because
Hmm.
obviously he feels like the best or second best player in the world.
Yeah, totally.
And I know Rublev did a pretty solid last year, lost to Dimitrov. We were actually at the match, and Maybe he'll be able to replicate that this year at the U.S. Open.
Yeah, speaking of Dimitrov, I heard he withdrew from the US Open or he pulled out.
Yeah, I think he's just struggling physically.
Yeah, and this was one where I think this is like the first time in years that he hasn't played all slams.
Yeah, really a bummer for him.
Yeah, he wasn't going for the 7 for 7 pull out.
Yeah, exactly. He was like, I don't want to play 3 matches and then withdraw again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But anyway, you want to hop into segments here?
Yep, let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
Alrighty, what's new in tennis? What'd you see this week?
Oh my God, I saw something so cringy, Aiden. So the US Open is doing a dating show. They're calling
Oh
it,
no.
yes.
Oh, why? I feel like your entire point of your what's new is to make me just be so upset with the tennis world.
Someone's got to hit the important gossip on the tennis tour. And yes, it will be frustrating at times, but wait until you hear the rest of this. It's called Game Set Matchmaker. And the description, it follows one tennis savvy bachelorette on her quest to find love one match at a time. And this girl, Aiden, looks straight out of like AI, doesn't even know how to play tennis. I can tell just by looking at how she was posing with the tennis racket.
Oh no, dude. I feel like you should at least get like a former tennis player or something, right?
That's what I thought. I thought it was gonna be like a tennis themed match where like they were either a professional player. I thought honestly when I first saw this that they were gonna have the girl date the players on tour. Like I thought like Musetti or Rude or all these players were gonna like go on dates with them, but that's not the case. It's like random ass dudes. But anyway, I think I would get more entertainment out of trying to see this girl actually hit a tennis ball than going on all these dates.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of seemed whack as hell. Uh, I would think that it would be at least like a former college player, right?
Hmm.
Something to do with the tennis. It sounds like it's just at the tennis location at the U.S. Open grounds, and
Yeah,
that's the
well,
only aspect that's tennis related.
yeah, well, she's tennis savvy, which I guess in this case
Oh,
means she likes to dress up in tennis outfits and take pictures
okay,
on the
dude.
tennis court. But all in all, am I going to watch it? Yeah, probably.
Really? Oh, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to tune in. I'm going to tune in.
I'm gonna like look at the video and be like, how did a million people watch this?
Yes, but to play devil's advocate here, like, is this what it takes to get young people into tennis? Like, the USTA is trying desperately, and I mean desperately at this point to get people into tennis. And I'm just thinking, would the other slams even consider this? No, not at all.
Yeah,
But
but that's probably because they're making the right decision.
exactly, can you imagine Wimbledon?
Yeah. One tennis savvy British young lady.
Oh man. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, you think this is a good way to bring eyeballs to the US Open?
No, I don't. Well, I don't think it brings any people to watch the actual tennis, right? I don't think people are like, oh, I watched this dating show. Now I'm going to watch the tennis matches.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But all right, enough of that because I'm about to pop a blood vessel talking about it. That's how angry I am. So, what about you? What did you see this week?
I saw just this super weird mixed doubles format started today. And to me, I just don't understand the point. I really wanted to talk about it. It's super short matches, like short sets. I want to say 4 game sets. Uh, but even then, it just feels like it's making a mockery of the format and turns it into an exhibition. I get it wasn't the most popular format in the sport, but at least you had people like taking it seriously and trying their best. Now they're just throwing in a bunch of people that don't even play doubles ever. And now one of them's going to win a slam and it'll be like they won just an exhibition match.
Yeah, I've been following this for about a week and a half now. It is pretty big news and it's getting a lot of mixed reaction. I've heard a lot of positives from on this side, but then also a lot of negatives, especially from the double specialists who are essentially getting booted out of their like, main slam, right? And it does have a negative impact on the players, but in this case, you're looking at it as tennis as a business. And clearly
Yeah.
the tournament directors were like, all right, how can we maximize value? And that is by getting the fans involved, getting big name players to watch mixed doubles and making it during fan week instead of at the end of the tournament when people are kind of checked out.
Yeah.
So
I honestly, I do think that making it during fan week rather than later on is the right decision, because by the time you get to the last few matches, people care about the finals, but
mhm.
they're already kind of tennised out a little bit after
Yeah.
14 days of tennis, right?
Yeah.
If you put it at the beginning, people like getting a taste for the tournament going in, which I think is probably the right decision. I just feel like it's questionable to make it such a exhibition style.
Yeah, I agree. It does take away. And the double specialists are pissed. Like they are not happy about it.
Yeah. But anyway, how about a bet of the week? Would you go for here?
I'm going with Corda minus 175 against Mashrach.
Ah, of course, one of
Mashrach.
the
Majchrazk.
yeah. I think we've talked about this
Mashrach.
one before, right?
We have.
J
It's a
R J
mouthful.
C H R is a pretty crazy
Yeah,
combination.
I know. I think we'll actually spend more time talking about the pronunciation of this guy's name than the bet itself. I'm just going with Corda. He's a better player. There's really not much else to say here.
Yeah. I feel like it's a relatively safe bet, but I guess you never know, right?
Yeah, nothing's safe. But Corda, man, I haven't heard like that name in a while, so I feel like he's prone for a breakout, and especially in Winston-Salem too.
Yeah, 100%.
How about
Uh,
you?
I'm going with Sinner plus 110 to win the US Open. I feel like it's not a crazy prediction, but it's definitely better odds than whatever you're going to get in the final.
I was gonna
So,
say that's crazy that it's even that low, right?
yeah, I mean,
Like after the withdrawal, I feel like it should be at least plus 200.
yeah, I still just think when people look at the tournament, they're like, who's going to beat Sinner if he doesn't beat himself with the conditions, right?
Yeah, totally. I like that bet. I'll probably put a couple bets actually. Sinner, Alcaraz, and maybe one other. I don't know, Draper, just for
Yeah.
fun.
It feels like Djokovic shouldn't
Oh,
be that high
Djokovic, yeah.
because he's one of the highest ones. I know he's not like a super high favorite, but he's one of the highest ones out there. And I guess you're just betting on whether Sinner and Alcaraz are going to lose early.
I wish you can bet, all right, Djokovic to make the semifinal
Yeah,
because that's
exactly.
where he'll go.
Well, I mean, I guess to do that, you just have to place a bet on him every single match until the semis,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But anyway, how about match of the week?
Oh, it's got to be the Cincinnati final.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, there weren't that many tight matches this week. Like I said before, it was pretty lopsided, but I went with Rublev beating Popyrin 6-7, 7-6, 7-5. I like this match a lot because it showed Rublev's resilience and mental fortitude, having to battle back after being down a set. And in that second set, it was a tiebreaker, so it could have gone either way too. He ended up winning it 7-5. And I feel like tiebreakers favor the bigger server. Is that just me, or do you feel like that too?
Well, I don't know. I feel like it anything can happen in a tiebreaker, in my
Anything can
opinion.
happen, but still, I feel like Poprin was serving bombs, and it just all he needed, it seemed like, was one mini break, and he had it. But Rublev did not let that happen, forced it to a third set, and was a tight third set. It got up to 6-5. Rublev was up, and then he got the break at the very end and took it home 7-5. So much emotion from him at the end of the match. It was awesome to see because you could just tell like this guy has gone through so much pain and adversity the last couple years, and for him to win this match, he just let out the biggest roar. So happy to see him, and I think he had a good tournament overall.
Yeah, and I also wonder on the Popperin side, this feels like a positive too because at least he's competing really closely with top guys rather than for most of the year it feels like he's been just in no man's land.
Yeah, definitely a big result for Popper as well. All right, how about you? What was your match of the week?
I'm going with another Rublev match actually, Rublev versus Alcaraz. It was a really tight three-setter and I feel like he just had the perfect ingredients for a fun match, right? Like Rublev hits bombs on ground strokes. Alcaraz produces magic, especially when you're going against someone like Rublev, who's going to put you in tough spots. You have to create some great shots to get out of those positions and just makes it fun to watch. And I feel like it was one of the, like you said, only matches this week that actually delivered some intensity in terms of being really close.
Yeah, I'm sure in that match, you probably had a lot of what should have been Rublev winners that Alcaraz got back. Because in the Poprin match, Rublev was ripping winners left and right. Poprin wasn't that mobile, but not going to work as well against Alcaraz.
Yeah, and you look at a match like this, and it feels as though this is the type of thing that would have set up Sinner for a great opportunity in that final, because obviously Alcaraz is having to play some tough, drawn out matches, and Sinner had a few matches that were barely over an hour or even
Yeah,
under an
yeah.
hour, right?
I know.
So it's weird to see that it ended up being Sinner that had to withdraw.
Yep. Unfortunate conclusion to a pretty good tournament overall. All right. And that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.